What's up, book nerds? My name is Tara, and today I am going to participate in the monthly recommendations group topic for April, which is survival stories. Monthly Recommendations is a Goodreads group started by Trina at Between Chapters and Kayla over at Kayla Rain. I will link their information in the description below, as well as information for the Goodreads group if you're interested in joining in on providing your own recommendations for this topic. All right, so let's get right to it because I have a lot of survival stories to recommend for you today. I didn't want to just make this like a Fast Five Friday or something because I have way more than 5. So we're going to go through them now. First, I recommend Life as We Knew It by Susan Beth Pfeffer. This may have shown up on other people's lists because it's a pretty typical survival story. It's an apocalyptic tale of a regular girl who's going through her day-to-day life as a teenager, and something knocks the moon too close to the earth, which just sets up a series of disasters. And then they are trying to live through all of these events. I highly recommend this book, and there are others actually in the series. So there is also The Dead and the Gone, which tells the same story but from the point of view of a boy living in New York City. And I actually think this one is better than the first one. And then the third book is This World We Live In, which was pretty terrible, and I recommend skipping it. Next, I have Unwind by Neil Shusterman, which is about a society where abortion has been made illegal, and therefore children can now be unwound between the ages of 13 and 18 if their parents decide that they don't want them anymore for whatever reason. And there are 3 children at the beginning of the story who are being sent to be unwound, and very quickly you realize that they are on a mission to survive and not have to go through that process. This is one of my favorite books of all time. I highly recommend it. Next up, I have The Testing by Joelle Charbonneau, and this book has been compared many times over to The Hunger Games, but with academic tests. In this futuristic dystopian society, the world is just a terrible place, and the only way out of living in a scrubby little town is to be selected for the testing, which then, if you survive the testing, gives you entrance into university. And Sia, our main character in the book, is selected, and there are multiple rounds to the testing, and if you fail, there are often deadly consequences to those choices. So this is absolutely, even though it's right up my alley about academic testing, it is definitely a story about life or death type of survival. I also think that even though it's very similar to The Hunger Games, it has merit in its own right, and I very much enjoyed the series and would recommend it. Next, I recommend These Broken Stars by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. This book is about a girl and a boy who are the only 2 survivors of a ship explosion in space, and they land on a planet that is completely uninhabited, or so they think. And they are trying to survive on this planet, but they are also trying to get home. So this book has been described as a space opera. I think it is brilliantly fun, and I very much enjoyed the romance and the survival aspect of the book, which is why I recommend it. The next book is Grasshopper Jungle, which is about surviving a grasshopper apocalypse. Do I need to say more than that? As I've said before on this channel, this book is not for everyone, but if you like Andrew Smith, if you like weird YA, this is definitely something a little different when you're talking about dystopian novels, and it's definitely one of the favorite books that I read last year. If you liked Lost, then I recommend Nil by Lynn Matson, which is the story of a secret island. We don't really know where it is, but kids just appear on this island. Our main character was walking through the Target parking lot and then just awoke on the island, and they have 365 days to figure out how to get off of the island or else they die. And the way they get off is there are these weird shimmery portals that float through the island, and if they can manage to jump through one, then they can get off. So this is an island survival story, but it also becomes sort of a brain teaser, mind puzzler as they try to outsmart the island itself so they can figure out how to save themselves. All right, so those are a few books in the traditional dystopian survival story genre, but I also had a few I wanted to share that are more in the contemporary or historical fiction genre. Well, I only have one in the historical fiction genre, and that is Prisoner B3087 by Alan Gratz. This is a book that maybe straddles middle grades and YA, but it is based on the story of a real prisoner who survived 10 Nazi concentration camps. I read this story several years ago, and it actually inspired me to visit, I think, 5 of the 10 sites while backpacking through Europe. And just the idea, I mean, it was incredibly hard to survive one of these camps, much less to be one of the prisoners that shuffled from camp to camp, because this is kind of happening at the end of World War II where they're moving a lot of prisoners around. It's just horrifying what this man went through, and I think Alan Gratz did a really good job of being serious about that and showing those struggles. So for historical fiction, obviously anything in the Holocaust fiction, World War II fiction sort of subgenre is going to work for that, but this is a favorite of mine. The last 3 books I'm going to share are definitely more of the hard issues YA contemporary category. The first of these is Winter Girls by Laurie Halse Anderson. You're probably familiar with Speak, which is her most famous novel, but this is a story about eating disorders. In particular, 2 friends where one of the girls has just passed away as a result of her eating disorder, and the girl that's left behind is still coping with that eating disorder and the loss of her friend. So it's a story about survival on multiple levels, and of all the books I've read, this one probably got to me emotionally the most, because Laurie Halse Anderson just had a way of even messing with my brain while reading it. So if you have an eating disorder or experience with that, I don't recommend this book because it could be triggering, but for everybody else, it is a really good look into that mental state. Next is The Sea of Tranquility by Kachi Millet, and I won't tell you too much about what the survival is in this because it's sort of revealed slowly as the story goes on, but it is a dual narrative told from the point of view of a girl who has gone through some sort of serious trauma and a boy who is the only living member of his family, and he's living in his house alone because he's lost everyone, and they are struggling with their relationship with each other and their relationships with everybody else in the world. This is a love story. Yes, it does go that direction, but it is also definitely a story of just surviving all the shit that life throws at us. And finally, I have I Crawl Through It by A.S. King, which is the story of 4 teens all struggling to survive high school and the various traumas that have entered into their lives. This is a surrealist story, so it's very hard to kind of get into what's happening at the beginning, but it's very well written, and I think it really does good by trying to uncover the complexities of dealing with external issues as well as internal issues, because I think a lot of teens today, it's coming at them sometimes from all sides. So I highly recommend everything by A.S. King, and her most recent novel is no exception. Okay, so those are just a few YA survival stories for you. If you need a recommendation of a good one to read, of all of these, the one I recommend the most is definitely Unwind by Neal Shusterman, because it's my favorite, but really all of them are great reads and I recommend them all. So okay, I'm gonna go put these books down now. So as always, book nerds, thank you for watching. I will see you next time.